The anatomy of an overactive thought. Understanding the machinery behind your anxious thoughts is the first step to disarming them. Let's slow this down for a moment and look at it under a microscope. We talk a lot about anxiety. We say we're overwhelmed. We say we can't stop thinking. We say we're tired. But what we don't often do is pause and actually study what's going on in the mind when anxiety hits. We don't often take the time to dissect our mental process. But if we did, we'd realize something powerful. Anxiety isn't just something that happens to us. It's something that runs on a pattern, and patterns can be changed. So let's go there. Let's break it down like we're scientists of the self. Let's study the anatomy of an overactive thought. 1. It all begins with a trigger. Imagine this. You're having a decent day. Nothing special, but not terrible either. Then, ding, a message comes in. One short sentence. We need to talk. Or worse, no message, just silence where a reply should have been, and suddenly your stomach drops. This is the trigger, and it could be anything. A tone in someone's voice, a delayed response, an unexpected look, a social media post you weren't tagged in, a comment taken the wrong way, or even just a memory resurfacing in your mind. The trigger itself doesn't have to be dangerous. In fact, it usually isn't. But your brain perceives it as a possible threat. It picks up on something uncertain and says, wait, what was that? Are we safe? And just like that, the machinery kicks in. 2. The interpretation machine. Right after the trigger, your mind begins trying to make sense of what just happened. This is where anxiety loves to live, because the brain is constantly working to predict the future. It's like a storyteller on caffeine. It doesn't just observe what's happening, it creates a whole narrative. Let's say someone doesn't text you back for 3 hours. That's the trigger. Now here comes the interpretation. They're ignoring me. I must have said something wrong. They don't respect me. This always happens to me. I mess up every relationship. And boom, you've gone from a simple moment of silence to a full-blown identity crisis. See, the brain is meaning-obsessed, and in uncertainty, it tends to fill the gaps with fearful stories rather than neutral or positive ones. Why? Because it's wired for survival. From an evolutionary standpoint, it was safer to assume danger than to ignore a threat. Back in caveman days, misinterpreting a rustle in the bushes could mean the difference between life and death. But we're not in the jungle anymore. Now, most of our dangers are emotional, be it social embarrassment, rejection, failure, and shame. And the brain hasn't updated its software, so it keeps sending panic alerts for non-life-threatening moments. 3. Emotional fallout. Once your mind has painted its doomsday story, your body reacts like it's true. Here's the science. When the brain perceives a threat, even if it's just an assumption, your amygdala, the fear center of your brain, sends a signal to your adrenal glands to release stress hormones like cortisol and adrenaline. Your heart rate increases, your breathing becomes shallow, your muscles tense. This is emotion kicking in. But more than emotion, it's biology, it's chemistry. It's not just you being dramatic. It's your system going into fight or flight mode. And you feel it. That tightness in your chest, that knot in your stomach, that racing heartbeat, that mental fog where everything feels urgent but nothing feels clear. You're not just thinking now, you're feeling the story your mind invented. And when feelings arrive, logic tends to leave. 4. The reactive spiral. Now you're in it. The trap is set. You start to react based on what you feel, not what you know. You might cancel the call, avoid the conversation, obsess over what you said, replay a moment 50 times looking for clues, write a message, then delete it. Ask for reassurance, again and again. And here's the kicker. The reaction feeds the original anxiety. You avoid the call, which means you never get clarity, which means your brain gets to keep telling that scary story. You don't find out that nothing was wrong, so the fear lives on. This cycle is exhausting. It drains your energy, it interrupts your focus, it ruins your sleep, it breaks your confidence. But here's what's most important. It wasn't the thing that caused the anxiety. It was your interpretation of the thing. 5. A real-life example. Let me tell you something personal. One day, I got a message from a colleague I deeply respected. It simply said, "Call me." No emoji, no explanation, just 2 words, and my brain lost its mind. Immediately, I went into detective mode. Did I mess up a project? Did I offend them in a meeting? Did something happen to my team? Was I about to be reprimanded? Fired? My heart was racing. I felt physically ill. I even started rehearsing apologies in my head for things I wasn't even sure I did. I put off calling them for almost 2 hours. When I finally did, bracing myself for disaster, do you know what they said? They said, "I just wanted to thank you. That talk you gave last week, it really impacted me. I wanted to share something personal and say thank you." That was it, and I sat there, stunned. All that inner panic, that mental movie I had created, that downward spiral, it was never real. But it felt real. Because that's what overactive thoughts do. They create an alternate reality, a version of life where you're always in trouble, always behind, always disappointing someone, always being judged. And unless we catch them in the act, we end up living more in that world than in the one that's actually happening. 6. The root of overactive thinking. So, what causes some of us to overthink so much more than others? Often, it comes down to a few hidden beliefs we carry. I must always get it right. People will leave if I mess up. I'm responsible for how everyone feels. I can't trust good things. They don't last. If I'm not careful, everything will fall apart. These core beliefs become the lens through which we interpret every trigger. They turn harmless moments into emotional landmines. And here's the truth. Most of these beliefs were planted years ago, through childhood experiences, past trauma, repeated criticism, broken trust, or societal pressure. They didn't come from nowhere. But the good thing is that if they can be planted, they can also be uprooted. 7. The power of naming the pattern. Once you learn to recognize this pattern, trigger, interpretation, emotion, reaction, you gain power. You stop believing every thought that enters your mind. You start to question the stories your anxiety writes. You begin to say things like, "Wait, is that true? Am I assuming the worst? Is there another possible explanation? What would I tell a friend who thought this?" This is called cognitive diffusion, the ability to step back from your thoughts and see them as mental activity, not truth. It's like going from being in the movie to sitting in the audience, watching the screen and realizing, hey, this is just a movie. 8. Rewiring the loop. Now that you know how overactive thoughts work, how do you begin to change the pattern? In the next section of this video, we'll walk through some powerful practices for rewiring your mental habits. Things like grounding, reframing, and compassionate self-talk. But for now, here's a little mental habit to begin using right away. Whenever a moment triggers anxiety, ask yourself, what's the story I'm telling myself? That question alone puts you back in the driver's seat. It shifts you from being a passenger in your anxiety to becoming its observer. And from there, you can choose a new route because you don't have to keep living in the loop. You're allowed to pause, to question, to breathe, to rewrite the story. 9. The trap of what if. Thinking. Let's pause here for a second and talk about one of anxiety's favorite games, the what if spiral. You know the one. What if they're mad at me? What if I get fired? What if I embarrass myself? What if something terrible happens? What if I'm just not good enough? Sound familiar? See, what if thinking is like quicksand for your peace of mind? The more you struggle inside of it, the deeper you sink. And the tricky part? The brain is trying to be helpful. Really, when your mind tosses out what ifs, it's actually trying to protect you. It's scanning the future for possible danger so you can be prepared. But here's the problem. Your brain doesn't know when to stop. It doesn't give you one possible scenario. It provides you 50, and not the good ones, the catastrophic ones. It's like your brain is trying to be your bodyguard, but it's also writing horror films. And before you know it, your whole body is reacting to events that haven't even happened. Guided reflection. Just take a breath with me. Inhale and exhale slowly. Now ask yourself, am I reacting to something real or to something imagined? 9 times out of 10, anxious thoughts aren't responding to what is, they're responding to what might be. And there's a huge difference between being proactive and being paralyzed by possibility. When you find yourself in the what-if spiral, one helpful practice is this. Turn the question around. What if it goes well? What if they understand me? What if I handled it better than I think? What if this turns out to be a lesson, not a failure? You're still using your imagination, but this time it's working for you, not against you. 10. The echo chamber of the mind. Let me tell you something that changed my life. Not every thought you think is true. Sounds simple, right? But most of us go our whole lives assuming that if we think it, it must mean something. It must be worth listening to. But the mind is noisy. It's not a courtroom, it's a cafe. Different voices chattering. Some are wise, some are fearful. Some are just echoes of past experiences that haven't been processed. Think about this. If you grew up around criticism, your brain might echo self-doubt. If you experienced inconsistency in relationships, your brain might echo abandonment fears. If you were praised only for achievements, your brain might echo perfectionism. So when you hear a thought like, "I'm not good enough," that might not be you. That might be your 6th grade teacher who shamed you in front of the class, or your parent who only noticed you when you excelled, or that breakup that left you in pieces. The echo chamber remembers. But here's the good news. You don't have to believe every voice in the room. You can become the moderator. You can pause and ask, whose voice is this? Is this fact or just a feeling? Does this thought help me or hurt me? You are not the echo. You are the one hearing the echo, and that gives you power. 11. The body keeps the score. Now, let's talk about your body, because it's not just your brain that holds on to these overactive thoughts. It's your body too. Have you ever had a day where you felt anxious, but couldn't figure out why? Like your heart was racing, or your chest was tight, and you were trying to match a thought to the feeling? Sometimes, the body remembers stress, even when the mind can't name it. This is especially true if you've been running on stress for a long time. Your nervous system gets used to operating in a state of tension, and eventually, calm feels unfamiliar, even unsafe. This is called hypervigilance, where your body is always scanning for danger, even when there's none. And when your body's alarm system is stuck in the on position, overthinking becomes the mind's way of trying to stay in control. It's like your brain says, okay, we're on high alert. Let's figure out what we should be worried about. And just like that, it creates a reason. But the truth is, sometimes the story is just your nervous system crying out for rest, not resolution. So what can you do? You bring the body into the healing. Try this. The next time you feel the wave of overthinking rise, pause. Put one hand over your chest, the other over your belly, and say this softly. I'm safe in this moment. My mind is busy, but I am here, and I am safe. You're not trying to stop the thought. You're trying to ground the body, because a regulated body gives the mind permission to rest. 12. Compassion, not criticism. Here's something I want you to really hold on to. You will never shame yourself into peace. Read that again. You will never bully, criticize, or overanalyze your way into calm. So often, when we struggle with overthinking, we add another layer on top of it, self-judgment. Why am I like this? What's wrong with me? Why can't I just stop? Other people don't think like this. But that inner critic isn't helping. It's doing the opposite. Imagine a child is afraid of the dark. They come to you crying, saying there's a monster under the bed. What would help more, screaming at them to stop being silly, or gently turning on the light, holding them close, and helping them see they're safe? Your mind is that child sometimes, and you are both the one who's afraid and the one who can offer comfort. Compassion sounds like this. Of course I'm feeling this way. This matters to me. I've been through a lot. No wonder I'm anxious. This pattern is strong, but I'm learning a new one. Even if this is hard, I'm proud of myself for trying. Self-compassion is not weakness. It's how you retrain the brain. It's how you turn off the alarms. 13. Rewiring the loop, Part 2. Now let's revisit the loop we mentioned earlier. Trigger, interpretation, emotion, reaction. To change the loop, you don't have to be perfect. You just need to insert awareness between one of those steps. Here's how. Between trigger and interpretation, ask, what else could this mean? Between interpretation and emotion, ask, is this thought helpful or harmful? Between emotion and reaction, ask, what do I need right now to feel supported? Each question slows the momentum. Each pause gives your brain a chance to choose rather than react. This is how rewiring begins, not in big, dramatic breakthroughs, but in quiet, daily moments of awareness, again and again. 14th, mindful thought labeling. Another tool that helps tame overactive thoughts is called thought labeling. When you notice a thought arising, simply name it. You don't have to analyze it or fix it. Just label it like this. Ah, that's a worry thought. That's a memory from the past. That's a fear of judgment. That's a prediction, not a fact. What this does is create distance. Instead of being in the thought, you're now observing it. And this changes everything. You're no longer the anxious thought itself. You're the person watching it float by, like a cloud in the sky or a leaf on a stream. Try it right now. Think of a thought that's been bothering you lately. Got it? Now say, this is a thought, not the truth. I'm allowed to witness it without obeying it. Powerful, isn't it? 15. The anxiety playlist. Let me tell you something kind of funny, but so true. Most of us have an anxiety playlist, a mental mixtape of greatest hits that play on repeat when we're stressed. And you know what's on yours. Maybe it's, I'm falling behind. Everyone's doing better than me. Something bad is going to happen. I'm too much. I'm not enough. You don't choose the playlist consciously, but you hear it every day. Here's the truth. That playlist didn't start with you. It was handed to you, maybe by culture, or a parent, or a bad relationship, or a perfectionist workplace. But you get to edit it. You get to create new tracks. Things like, I'm doing my best and that's enough. My pace is valid. I don't have to earn rest. It's okay to not have it all figured out. This isn't fake positivity. It's neural rehabilitation. It's you teaching your mind a new song to sing. The Anxiety Detox Toolkit. Practical tools to reset your mind, calm your body, and reclaim your focus. Welcome to your Anxiety Detox Toolkit. This is where insight turns into action. This is where we stop fighting our anxious thoughts and start training our nervous system to respond differently. You've done the reflective work. You've seen how overactive thoughts operate, how they spiral, and how they sneak into your body. Now it's time to give yourself tools. Real, practical, everyday tools that work not just in theory, but in the middle of a messy day. Please think of this toolkit like a mental wellness first aid kit. Just like you'd reach for a bandage or ice pack for a physical wound, these tools are what you reach for when anxiety kicks up and starts running the show. Let's dive in. 1. The name it to tame it technique. Neuroscientists have found something really interesting. When you label an emotion, you reduce its intensity. It's called affect labeling. The moment you say, I'm feeling anxious or I'm feeling overwhelmed, you move that experience from the emotional part of your brain to the logical, decision-making part. It sounds so simple, but it works. Here's how to use it. Pause. Take one breath. Ask yourself, what am I feeling right now, and where do I feel it? Then say it gently. I'm feeling X, and I feel it in my chest, throat, stomach, etc. That's it. No need to fix it yet. Just name it. Let it breathe. Because when you name it, you tame it. When you face it, it begins to fade. 2. The 5-4-3-2-1 grounding exercise. When anxiety makes your thoughts race, bring your attention back to the present moment using your 5 senses. Here's the quick method. 5 things you can see. 4 things you can touch. 3 things you can hear. 2 things you can smell, 1 thing you can taste. Let's try a mini version right now. Look around, notice the colors, the shadows, touch the texture of your chair or clothes. Listen, what's the furthest sound you can hear? Breathe in, smell the air. Even if there's no scent, notice that. This brings you back from your mind to your body, from the future back to now. When you're grounded in the present, worry loses its grip. 3. The box breathing reset, 4-4-4-4. Box breathing is a powerful technique used by Navy SEALs and therapists alike to calm the nervous system in moments of pressure. It works like this. Inhale for 4 seconds. Hold for 4 seconds. Exhale for 4 seconds. Hold again for 4 seconds. Repeat for 4 cycles. You can even visualize drawing the 4 sides of a square in your mind as you breathe, 1 side for each part of the cycle. This doesn't just calm you down, it resets your body's stress response. Try it for just 1 minute, and you'll be amazed at how your body begins to soften. 4. The thought traffic light. Imagine your anxious thoughts like cars approaching a traffic light. Red thoughts. Catastrophic, spiraling. I'm doomed. This will ruin everything. Yellow thoughts. Fear-based caution. What if? Maybe I messed up. Green thoughts. Grounded, calm, curious. Let's wait and see. I can handle this. Once you label the color of a thought, you regain control. Red light? Stop. Breathe. Don't react yet. Yellow light? Slow down. Ask for more context. Green light? Proceed with grounded action. This simple metaphor helps separate urgency from truth and gives you a system for choosing your mental path instead of being hijacked by it. 5. The opposite action principle. One of the most powerful strategies for managing overactive thoughts is doing the opposite of what the anxiety tells you. Here's what I mean. Anxiety says, cancel the meeting. Opposite action, show up, even briefly. Anxiety says, don't open that message. Opposite action, read it with curiosity, not fear. Anxiety says, you need to control everything. Opposite action, let one small thing go. Each time you do the opposite of what anxiety demands, you retrain your nervous system. You show your brain that you are not in danger and that you are capable, and every small win counts. 6. The Tiny Win Journal. Your brain has a natural negativity bias. It remembers bad events more than good ones. That's evolutionary. But we can override that bias by consciously focusing on tiny wins. Here's how it works. At the end of each day, write down just 3 things you did despite anxiety. It could be, I made that phone call I was avoiding. I got out of bed even when I didn't want to. I said no to something that drained me. Over time, this journal becomes a record of resilience. It rewires your brain to focus on progress, not perfection. 7. The 10-10-10 reframe. Sometimes, anxious thoughts feel like emergencies, like if you don't solve them now, something bad will happen. But here's a simple trick to get perspective. Ask, will this matter in 10 minutes? Will this matter in 10 days? Will this matter in 10 months? This helps shrink big feelings into their proper place. That awkward email, 10 minutes, that missed opportunity, maybe 10 days, that toxic self-talk. Let's not carry that for 10 months. Perspective is one of the best detoxifiers of overthinking. 8. The anchor phrase. Choose a phrase that becomes your personal anchor when anxiety rises, something that speaks to your truth, your inner calm, or your values. Examples. I've done hard things before. I can do this too. This feeling is temporary. I am grounded. Anxiety is loud, but it's not in charge. Say it out loud. Write it on a sticky note. Repeat it until your body starts to believe it. The mind may wander, but an anchor brings it home. 9. The compassion break. Let's wrap this toolkit section with something most people forget to practice when they're anxious: self-kindness. Sometimes what we need isn't a fix, it's a pause, a moment to say, this is a hard moment, but I'm allowed to feel it. I'm doing the best I can. Even if I'm struggling, I am still worthy of peace. You don't have to push every thought away. Sometimes you just need to sit with them, gently. No judgment, no pressure, just space to be human. Final note on the toolkit. None of these tools are magical on their own, but together, they become your mental strength training. Each time you practice, you build emotional muscles. You stretch your window of tolerance. You remind your brain that you are the one steering the ship. And that's how transformation happens. Not overnight, but over time. So the next time your thoughts start spinning, remember this. You've got tools now. You've got power. And most of all, you've got the capacity to live from calm, not chaos.
If these words found you today, perhaps it's no accident. Growth moves softly, but it asks for your willingness. So if this space has been a light for you, consider gently subscribing to the Upward Ideas. Let these lessons return to you again and again, like tides shaping the shore. This is Alex E. Thank you for listening. Until next time, walk slowly, but always upward.